One morning, last monsoon, I turned left at VT station. This is my regular drive to work every morning. Yes, I drive here. Everybody drives here. Most taxi drivers, I think, have never even had the pleasure of having driving lessons. Actually, if you think about it, entrusting your life in the hands of a taxi driver might be more dangerous than driving yourself. Of course, driving here is a little bit different than driving in Amsterdam, where I'm from. There are all sorts of road users, each move in their own peculiar way. There are always vast flocks of pedestrians everywhere that randomly decide to cross the road and risk their life as if there is a major treasure on the other side. I have never seen it. So when I drive in Bombay, you should normally obtain two simple rules. First, you only mind about the 180 degree in front of you. The person behind you is doing the same, thus taking care of your 180 degree rear. Secondly, you have to know exactly which place you are in the hierarchy amongst the road users. Above me in the hierarchy, and therefore I have to give them right of way, are of course the holy cows. But also the unstoppable and unsteerable hand carts, the wooden ones. Then of course there are buses and trucks and other vehicles that are not owned by the driver. They don't really care. So I have to give them right of way too. Lower in the hierarchy are those who get more damaged in case of an accident than me. Any expensive fancy cars falls in that category. But also taxis, because for them the car is the livelihood. These two specific road rules fall under the overall fundamental rule I think everyone has to master when living here. The art of strategically ignoring and blocking out as much as possible. On the road, this actually means to avoid any eye contact at any point of time. One of the questions I get asked the most is, how do you find parking? This is the least of my worries, as according to my understanding, you can upgrade any parking guy into a valet parking boy by giving 50 rupees with your key and smile and walk off. This is how I've made lots of friends among the parking guys. So if I actually need to find parking in the middle of Ford on a Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I don't see any problem. In the very unlikely event that there is no parking guy who is willing to take my car, I normally opt for the other valet parking, a little bit more expensive. It's provided by the government. I call them valet, lots of other people call them towing trucks. Anyway, back to this morning at VT station, I take a left. So I'm opposite McDonald's, and I'm taking a left into Balada Estate. My office is there. And it's around 11:30 in the morning. And 15 meters further, I have to stop again because there's a traffic signal, and it's red. I'm listening to some classical music from a CD, and I watch vast flocks of pedestrians squinting through cars because a random tempo truck decided to stand on the middle of the zebra crossing, as usual. Suddenly, I hear knocking on my window. There's a traffic man standing on my right. Where did he come from? He's holding it in between his thumb and index finger, and he looks as if it's something dirty. Madam, tinted windows, not allowed. Now, you must know that my little red Central car was bought second-hand, and it came with tinted windows. I actually didn't know the car had tinted windows because I didn't buy the car myself. In the last 10 years here, I have changed my instinctive, how will I do this, more and more into who will do this for me whenever I face any problem. So first I found myself a mechanic, and then I found a car online which I liked, and I sent my newfound mechanic to this car and go and buy it. So it came with tinted glass. And the tinted glass, I soon found out, has huge benefits. Less people pry in, less people come to the car, it signals, and most of all, I can look around shamelessly, staring at the world around me, and no one notices me. But since the last 2 or 3 years, this is not anymore allowed, so I should actually give up my benefits? No, not gonna happen. Hence, the police has started noticing me more and more, and they stopped me more and more. Initially, I used to stop and argue. And this takes a lot of time. And any of you who know me, I don't waste time. So my taxes have changed over the last couple of years. So now when I approach one of these junctions, where specifically the police is looking out for people with tinted glass, this is not every signal. Some of the signals they mind, otherwise they don't. So when I actually approach Satrasta or Malaxmi station or the end of the C-Link, I get in the lane furthest away from the police, and I look away from them, trying to ignore them, and I drive on. But now here at VT, with this taxi in front of me for this red signal, there's no movement, no possibility to escape. So I look at him and I say, yes, I know. Madam, every morning I wave at you and you never stop. What? As I said, most of the times, I pretend not to see them. This guy I genuinely did not see. Now I look at him closely, and there's nothing extraordinary. He has a round face, little paunch, like all of them, meticulous white shirt, yellow raincoat dripping from rain from earlier, and khaki trousers. I dig around in my hands. No, never seen him before. By the way, has anyone ever really had a close look at those khaki trousers? Exquisite. No matter what body you put into it. Tall or short, or thick or thin, man or woman. It suits, well, everyone. Amazing. Oh, and those belt loops, the diamond-shaped belt loops, have a look next time if you haven't seen it. Specific. Sir, you waved me down before? Yes, madam, at least 3 times in the past week. You pass every morning at 10:30. Today you're late. I know I'm late, but he knows it too. I see a triumph in his face. He finally caught me. He's bringing me to justice. But I don't only see triumph. There's also something best described as a mixture of disappointment and fatigue. Then a loud orchestra of honking starts around me, which normally means that the signal has turned green. I can drive off. It will be easy. He's on foot. I can do what I always do. But I can't. There's something in his face. While pointing to the sidewalk ahead, I ask him, "Sight?" And he nods. While I push and squint through the traffic, making my way over to the sidewalk, I all of a sudden remember a totally different incident, what happened years earlier. This was in Bandra. During one of the rush hours, I was heading in on SV roads. I was standing behind a bus. I was still, and I was outside Lucky's restaurant. Of course, I was still in my own little red car. My brother calls it actually the smallest fire truck in the world, but okay. And all of a sudden, I hear this loud, scratchy metal noise. And I get out, and I walk around, and I see this armor Panzer truck with the camouflage colors, so it nicely stands out on the road. One of those had actually scraped my car all the way from back to front. I walk up to the door, and I knock on the tiny bulletproof window of the truck. Bulletproof glass is expensive, so they've made the windows small, which made me think that he couldn't even see me, so it wouldn't be his mistake, actually. So I was okay. The driver opened the door. He pauses and he says, "It's okay, madam." What? I am stunned. He really could have said anything he wanted, but it is not okay. "This is not okay," I hear myself yelling in my head. And instantly, steam is coming out of my ears. A little later, when we actually walk into the police station in Bandra, which was around the corner, the head of the police station, the guy, is running towards me and says, yes, madam, what happened? You want a seat?" And I sit very reluctantly, because I know if you sit, it's going to take a while. "Coffee," he says. Yes, and that's when I realized it's going to take a little bit longer than a while. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take 1.5 hours. By the time I finish my second cup of coffee, I start wondering, and it starts dawning on me, why I was there wasting my time. I was looking for some sort of justification. An acknowledgement from the driver that it was not okay to drive into my car. When we were outside inspecting my car, the driver made it very clear to me that I was not going to get any acknowledgement or any apology. While 5 officers from the police station and the 6 guys from the truck, and of course the 36 random bystanders, all of them were very busy pointing out all these other 100 scratches on my car that I made myself. This driver actually tucked my sleeve and pulled me aside and, like almost whisperingly, said, "Madam, mera promotion?" This guy in front of me had a promotion. He was thinking about his career. There he was, a skinny, tall guy, a boy almost, with his head down, almost shaking of fear. He had a future and an upcoming promotion. I paused and I thought, if it is okay to wreck my car, then it is okay for me to complain. And if that means you don't get promoted, then it's okay, I said to him. And I walked back to my car to leave. I'd spent enough time. I was not going to be noticed. No apology was ever going to be made. All of this I remembered that morning at VT station. I'd reached the sidewalk by now, and I turned off the music, and the police guy was slowly walking up to the side of my car. By now I actually understood the expression on his face, specifically the mixture of disappointment and fatigue. Tired of not being noticed. After all, he was a police guy. He should be noticed. When he reached my car, I looked up at him with my most honest face, and I said, "Sorry, sir, I didn't see you." He looked at me with squinted eyes and he sighed, big. And then slowly I saw the disappointment moving and sliding off his face. He smiled. It wasn't really a smile, it was a small smile, but it's still a smile. "What to do with the film then?" he says. In a flock of a second, I come up with such a nonsense excuse that it even surprises me. "But sir, it's too hot. The rain hasn't started as yet. It's June, and the film keeps the car cool. Can I keep it for a couple of weeks?" While taking, "That's a good one," he says. "I've never heard that one before." And now he smiles, a big smile. While taking a couple of steps back, he waves and he says, "Chalo. Apparently he's really done with me. "Thank you, sir," I smile and I take off. For the next few weeks, every time I reached his signal, I was searching through the crowds for this one specific police guy. We nod and smile at each other, and it was very nice to have a genuine smile from this massive crowd of pedestrians every morning. But one day he was gone. He wasn't there anymore. Oh, I thought, he got transferred. That's actually all I thought. But the morning after, I still looked out for him, hoping that he had just temporarily been moved and that he was going to come back. And I was wondering actually why I missed him. And I came to realize that he had shown me on his face a feeling that I had actually experienced myself as well. Basically, it boils down to this. When I drive around, people around me become obstacles. They are in my way. And I'm in a hurry. According to me, there are no humans out there. This guy made me realize that he and I are actually quite the same. And that he is as human as I am. So now every time I reach one of those signals where the police stands and waves me down, instead of ignoring them, I look at them. I acknowledge them. I look them straight in the eyes and give them a smile. When they wave, I raise my hand and I wave back and I keep on driving. Thank you.